What's up, fight fans? Welcome back to Sportskeeda MMA News. Henry Cejudo offers to train Jake Paul for his debut in MMA. Colby Covington's post-sneak attack face was recently revealed, and it's pretty damning evidence against Jorge Masvidal. Matchroom Sports chairman Eddie Hearn wants to set up a super fight between Jake Paul and Conor McGregor. Michael Bisping shares a funny story about Tony Ferguson DMing him, and Justin Gaethje speaks about a crucial mistake he made in his title fight against Khabib Nurmagomedov. All this and more on today's edition of Sportskeeda MMA News. If you see any of your favorite fighters mentioned in today's video, make like Khabib and smash that like button. Let's get started. If you want the best chance of making a great impression for Uncle Dana, why not train with a former Olympian, former 2-division UFC champ, and the man who dethroned Demetrius Johnson? Well, Henry Cejudo had the same idea, and with Jake Paul's recent popularity in the boxing space, including knockouts over former MMA champions Tyron Woodley and Ben Askren, this idea could be fruitful for both fighters. Jake Paul has flirted with the idea of transitioning to MMA before, and Henry Cejudo recently offered his services. Here's what he had to say.
And with the IQ that I have for mixed martial arts, if Jake Paul ever wants to come out to fight ready, to come and train with me, like, I would take care of him, dude. I think he has a better chance in mixed martial arts to become a world champion in mixed martial arts than he does in boxing. And I tell you this as a wrestler, because I had the same goals and the aspirations to become a world champion in boxing at one point. But man, it's those guys that have been fighting since they were 5-6 years old. It's a different speed, man. It's a different finesse.
The 16-2 Henry Cejudo is planning a comeback to MMA and has been vocal about his potential return opponents, including featherweight champ Alexander Volkanovski and bantamweight champ Aljamain Sterling. The 5-0 Jake Paul has made a killing by knocking out UFC has-beens in the boxing ring, and has been a vocal contrarian of the UFC over its infamous fighter pay issue for some time now. What do you think? Do you think Henry Cejudo can successfully guide Jake Paul to a successful MMA debut? Let us know your thoughts, leave a comment down below, and you might be featured in tomorrow's video. So, it turns out that Jorge Masvidal's sneak attack on Colby Covington did actually result in a chipped tooth, and it doesn't look pretty. Earlier this year, Jorge Masvidal ambushed Colby Covington at a steakhouse in Miami Beach. The altercation transpired after Jorge Masvidal failed to make the most of his main event spot against Covington at UFC 272. Masvidal cited Covington's trash talk about his family as being the primary reason for him seeking vengeance. Thanks to Jorge Masvidal's lawyer, these images have surfaced showing the damage done to Covington's face and even his $90,000 Rolex watch. Now, if only we could get a clear video of the actual punch. The 35-16 Masvidal is on a 3-fight skid, and 2 of those are to pound-for-pound king Kamaru Usman. Masvidal was arrested and charged with aggravated battery and criminal mischief in connection with the attack, and has since pleaded not guilty to both. The 17-3 Colby Covington is still riding high as the #1 welterweight contender, but has also lost twice to Usman. And he may have the UFC's cash cow to worry about next in Khamzat Chimaev. What effect do you think these images will have on Masvidal's case? One of the most influential boxing promoters in the world right now wants to do another monumental crossover boxing fight. Just like when the notorious Conor McGregor fought Floyd Mayweather Jr., these crossover events create a ton of hype and money for the combatants. Eddie Hearn spoke with Ariel Helwani about this would-be spectacle, but ultimately concluded that Conor would handle Paul. Hearn said this.
I still like Conor McGregor against Jake Paul, I've got to say. I know there's a bit of a weight, but Conor's looking big these days. I don't want to disrespect Conor because I really like him, but it's the size is the problem. And again, when I said Jake was out, he can fight, quite explosive, can punch a little bit. A lot of people don't know, Conor was a decent amateur fighter. He does have good boxing fundamentals, much better than most mixed martial artists. His boxing is much better. And even in the Mayweather fight, I know that Mayweather was holding him up really for most of that fight, but he was competitive enough. It certainly wasn't embarrassing. And he fought the pound for pound #1 at the time. So Conor can box.
The first ever simultaneous double champ Conor McGregor has been itching to get back into the octagon since suffering his compound fracture against Dustin Poirier. His next target, potentially a chance at triple weight gold against Kamaru Usman. Jake Paul most recently knocked out Tyron Woodley and plans to return to boxing on August 13th. Against who? Well, maybe the man he's been beefing with for over a month, Michael Bisping. What do you folks think? Does Jake Paul's size make any difference in a boxing fight against Conor McGregor? Tony Ferguson has said a lot of crazy things in his UFC career. Remember when he told Kevin Lee he would make him verbally tap? Well, apparently, he has also said some unsavory words to the former UFC middleweight champion Michael Bisping. In the lead-up to Chandler vs. Ferguson at UFC 274, Bisping joked about Ferguson abusing him in his DMs for some of his comments on his Believe You Me podcast. Here's what Bisping said. Tony Ferguson has abused me. He has come after me. He sends me messages. Like if I talk about him and stuff like this on my podcast, I've had messages. I won't swear, so he'll tell me, you're talking S-H-I-T, Mike, and I'm like, no, Tony, leave me alone. Ferguson is most likely referring to Bisping expressing concern over his career as of late. After dominating the lightweight division and amassing an insane 12-fight win streak and capturing the interim UFC championship, his career came to a grinding halt after getting battered by Justin Gaethje at UFC 249. Here's what Bisping had to say. If he loses 4 in a row, which he's got a good chance of doing, let's be honest, he's got a chance of losing to Michael Chandler. But if he loses 4 in a row, and he loses badly, then a lot of people are going to ask him to start thinking about retirement, which would be sad because it would be such a huge fall from grace. An apt description of the 26-6 Ferguson running the division and then getting dominated by 3 contenders, including champ Charles Oliveira and the lightweight dark horse Beneil Dariush. The 22-7 Michael Chandler is on a skid of his own, also to Gaethje and Oliveira, but his career has not once been called into question due to his performance even in defeat. What do you folks think? Do you dream? Does Tony Ferguson pull off a career comeback this Saturday? Comment down below. While you're still here, subscribe to Sportskeeda MMA and hit that bell. And last but not least, one half of the UFC 274 main event, Justin Gaethje, did not mince words about his strategy to beating Charles Oliveira. Let's remind all of you that Oliveira is currently on a 10-fight win streak and holds records in finishes at 18 and submissions at 15, including his most recent rear naked choke victory over #1 contender Dustin Poirier. Here's what Gaethje said. I have to be perfect. The only time I've ever took another strategy where I wasn't moving forward was against Khabib Nurmagomedov, and I'll never do that again. So if he's moving forward, know then that things aren't going good for me. Wise words from the man who's earned a post-fight bonus in every single one of his UFC victories, including his Fight of the Year Super Brawl with Michael Chandler. But his opponent is no stranger to being doubted, and gave a reminder to Gaethje and MMA fans about just who he is. Charles Oliveira said, Justin Gaethje is a guy who's a brawler, believing in his hands 100% because that's all he's got, his hands. I have all the advantages over him. I'm better on my feet, on the ground, and at my wrestling. My mind and spirit is better than his. I'm the champion, and that's the reality. An ice-cold statement from the man who defied all odds when he knocked out Michael Chandler to win the lightweight strap. The 23-3 Gaethje has disposed of some UFC legends, including Edson Barboza and Cowboy Cerrone. And what's next for the lightweight division? Who deserves to fight the winner of Gaethje and Oliveira? That about does it for Sportskeeda MMA News. Here are some of the best comments from today. Damage beats volume in my opinion. I think it's clear as day who won the fight. Cheeto was built for 5-rounders and showed patience, power, and precision. I think that's Ali right there. Islam don't got Twitter fingers like that. I like Justin, but Khabib had a walk in the park over Justin. What is he talking about? If you like this video, please like, comment, and share. Your comments could be featured in the next Sportskeeda MMA news video. We always deliver daily content, so make sure you subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss anything going on in the MMA world. For updates, quotes, and exclusive interviews from all your favorite fighters, follow Sportskeeda MMA on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you for tuning in.